What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello. I just have to point out, because you guys can't see it, I already know my mom doesn't have her computer. She's got our podcast printed out. I have a sneaky suspicion as to why. Last week, you guys probably also don't know this because she probably cut it all out. Apparently, the computer kept freezing, it wouldn't fucking work.
For real.
Just straight up would not work. Mind
real.
you, let's not forget, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, it may not make sense, but there's probably more than one demon in the last episode. So anyways, that happened, right? Yeah. So fatal blend. My mom and my dad come in after. She comes out, gives me a hug, and she goes, "We're going to die."
Yep.
And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "The computer worked perfectly fine with
It
your
did.
dad and I." So now I see that there's no
froze.
computer and it's just paper. So I have my sneaky suspicion as to why.
So it froze. It took us 2.5 hours to record the 45-minute podcast for last week because my computer kept freezing and it wouldn't let me scroll. It wouldn't let me do anything. So I'd have to restart the whole Word program. And I was so annoyed and angry. And then Jay came in for us to record Fatal Blend, and he laughed.
And Fatal Blend does serial killers.
And
so
he laughed. Yeah.
their-
And he laughs. And I was telling him what was going on. And I said, "I swear, if this continues, I'm going to throw the computer." And he looks at me, and goes, "How crazy would it be if it doesn't freeze and it was only on that episode with you and Sierra?" And sure as hell, it did not freeze. And I looked at him after we were done recording, and he goes, "Well, it was nice knowing you." And even if
Did you by chance see a picture of yourself or yourself
you
in
listen-
Disneyland when you were there?
No. If you listen to Fatal Blend at the end, Jay even says, "Well, this may be the last podcast that you will hear from Fatal Blend because T may not be around anymore." And he explains why. So we're going to ride this wave till we can't.
Like I said, we don't do video as of now, so you guys can't see that. But I just thought you guys should know.
Yeah.
That,
I went back
we're
to
here
paper.
another day.
I went back to paper. Yeah. So I'm going to just say, I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize right now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for a couple things. I'm sorry for this episode we're about to do. I'm sorry for the things I have to talk about. I'm sorry for the mispronunciations because I know they're fucking coming. So just keep that in mind.
And if you skip this episode, we are not going to be offended.
Well, here we go. Let me just give you a whole fucking trigger warning. So this case is a very gnarly fucking case. It took me 2 days to research. 2 days to research. Not because there's so much information. I just had my head in the books.
Where did you find this one?
Your ass sent it to me.
Yes.
Okay.
This is another Sierra one.
So it took me 2 days to research it because it was so horrific. I actually had to stop.
Damn.
I actually
What
had
the
to
fuck
stop.
did I send you?
I actually had to stop, and I was like, I need to take a break. So I was researching it, and I stopped halfway through, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to finish this tomorrow. And so that's number one. You always know it's a bad case when I have to not research it all at once. Number two, this case is going to deal with rape, torture, and murder of a 17-year-old girl. So I need you to be very knowledgeable on that. It was awful to research. It is going to be awful to retell. But here we are because I did all the research and there's no way I'm going back now. So my stomach hurts just thinking about having to tell you guys this story. It also hurt while I was doing the research. So if you're not a fan of this kind of a podcast, no judgment. Skip this podcast. We'll catch you next week. It won't be as horrific because I'll either do something spooky or something totally not bad.
Possibly have another demon in our soul.
I'll try to do something that's not like that. To be honest, I wish I could skip this episode too. That's how much I don't want to do this. But I don't have a stockpile of episodes to pick from because I'm behind. And so I literally did the research for this and I didn't have time to research something different because I could tell that I could do this one in a couple weeks where it's not so fresh, but it's fucking fresh as hell. So here we go. This is what we're going to talk about. Okay. So I'll give y'all a minute here. Goodbye if you don't want to hear this one. Okay. For all of you that stayed, I'm sorry. So this week we are talking about the year 1988, November 25th to be exact, in Japan. So this is going to be, like I said, I'm going to mispronounce some things and I'm sorry. I try really hard to get the pronunciations right. And I'm just not that good at it. So whatever. Junko Furuta, she is abducted. And she is brutally tortured, raped, and murdered. And there are 4 juvenile males who are held responsible for this. This case is actually known as the worst case of juvenile crime in the country post-war history for them. This specific crime to this day is known as the worst juvenile crime in the country of Japan. Take that for what, again, this is your last chance. This is your last chance. If you don't want to be here, bow out now. Bow out now. So we're going to talk first just about Junko. So Junko was born January 18th, 1971, and she grew up in Masato, Saitama Prefecture. Now, she lived there with her parents, and an older brother and a younger brother. So she was the middle child, like me. At the time that she was murdered, she was 17 years old, and she went to Yashio Minami High School. She also worked a part-time job at a plastic molding factory, and she was saving up money for a graduation trip that had been planned. So it's like she was saving up money to be able to go spend, right? It's not that she wasn't paying for her graduation trip. She was saving up her spending money. She also had already accepted a job at an electronic retailer where she was planning on working after she graduated. So she had her life on point. She was very well liked by her classmates and her teachers. She had really good grades. She had very little absences. Overall, a good student. Everybody liked her. People said that she was constantly smiling, always happy, just a really well-rounded, phenomenal individual. There are also 4 male teenagers who are a big part of this story, and they are the ones who are actually held responsible for her murder. And basically, each one of these boys had dropped out of school by this time, and they had joined organized crime. So they had dropped out of high school or whatever. I don't know when they dropped out, but they had all dropped out at some point, and they turned to a life of living organized crime. Now, these 4 are Hiroshi Miyano, who was 18 at the time, Joe Agura, he was 17 at the time, Shinji Minato, he was 16 at the time, and Yasushi Watanabe, he was 17 at the time. Now, these boys, after they started hanging out for a while, they decided that they would hang out mostly at Shinji's home, and this was in Adachi, Tokyo. Now, starting in October of 1988, these 4 boys begin to really get involved in criminal activities. They do things like theft, which started out with things like purse snatching. Then they kind of moved on to car theft. They also assaulted people, and they started raping people. Now, on November 8th, 1988, the group of boys actually abducted a 19-year-old girl in Adachi, and they gang raped her in a hotel, which blows my mind because I'm sitting there in my head trying to figure out how you bring somebody to a hotel, rape them, and nobody calls the police. Nobody heard anything. Like, that just doesn't make sense.
Well, it's like that one story.
Which one?
The one where the girl was getting murdered, like on the streets or something like that, and the bystander effect.
The bystander
like
effect,
that,
yeah. And it could be
that have that.
You could be right. My other thought was, if these guys were really part of organized crime, there's a really good chance the hotel they went to was a hotel that was bought out by the group they were a part of. So where it was like the hotel staff was paid to turn a blind eye type thing.
Or, not trying to be that gross bitch, but it is a hotel. People go there and do freaky shit.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You know
People
what I mean?
might just mind their own business.
Right.
Right. Like,
right.
Like
they
hourly hotel rates.
Sounds wise might be like, oh, there's
people are just having fun.
Boom.
Right. Could be. You're not wrong.
I'm not saying it's inexcusable, but
so
there could be reasons.
So on November 25th, 1988, Hiroshi and Shinji, they're kind of cruising town. And to be honest with you, they are cruising around town looking to, honestly, abduct somebody to rape them. That's literally what they're doing. They're just out looking. And they see Junko riding her bicycle home from her part-time job. And Shinji goes up to her as she's riding and kicks her off of her bike. And then he runs away. And then Hiroshi comes jogging up to her and acts like He had no idea who the guy was, and he just witnessed her being knocked off the bike. And he's kind of like, I imagine it being like, oh my God, are you okay?
Let me help you.
I just saw that guy. How, what the fuck? Like, can I help you? He then offers, can I help you home? Can I help walk you home to make sure you get home? And she says yes. Well, as they are starting to walk and they're talking, and he's like, being, I guess, nice to her, he ends up leading her to a nearby warehouse. And once they're in the warehouse, he basically tells her, you need to shut the fuck up. You need to do everything that I tell you because I am a Yakuza, which is a Japanese mafia. And he tells her that he will let her family live if she follows his orders. Now, Hiroshi then takes Junko to a hotel in Adachi where he rapes her. He then calls Shinji and tells him basically that he raped Junko. And at this house where Shinji is, Joe and Shinji are there. And Hiroshi is basically bragging to them like, yo, that chick we knocked off the bike, like, haha, right? Like making a big deal about it. So then Joe tells him, don't let her leave the hotel. Now, in the early morning hours of November 26th, 1988, so this is the next day, Hiroshi takes Junko to a nearby park. Now the other boys are there waiting. They tell her that they know where she lives and that the Yakuza are going to kill her family if she tries to escape. Now they bring her back to Shinji's home where they keep her in a room. Now on November 27th, so the following day after that, Junko's family contacts the police at this point to report her missing because they're like, holy shit, like she was supposed to be home on the 25th. She's not here the 26th. We haven't heard, whatever. Now, after this happens, because they report her missing, so I'm assuming that there was probably a news report or something about, do you know the whereabouts of this girl? So after this, the boys actually force Junko to call her mom on 3 different occasions to tell her that she ran away from home, she wasn't coming back, and that it's okay, she was safe because she was staying with friends. So they basically made it to where her parents were probably didn't believe it. I mean, she was a really fabulous student. Like there was no reason for her to run away from home, but it may have made it to where they were like, what the heck? Like she's just gone, but they were able to talk to her. So they knew she was alive. So I don't think there was like a really big police search at that point for her. Whenever Shinji's parents, because again, they're staying at Shinji's house and Shinji's only 16. Okay. And so his parents are around, like they come around the house and this is a 2-story home and they're keeping her in the second story in a bedroom in the second story. Well, when they start to come around, the parents notice this girl is there and the boys basically tell the parents that this is just Shinji's girlfriend. And she ran away from home because she doesn't want to be at home. And so she's going to stay with us. So they told the parents that for a while. Now, eventually, the parents start to realize, I don't think that's true. And I don't know what made them think it's not true. Maybe it was the fact that she was locked in a room. Maybe it was the fact that she was raped multiple times while they, in their home. Maybe she cried. I don't know. But they started to realize, I don't think she actually wants to be here. And this actually leads the parents to basically tell the boys, don't worry, we won't report you to the police. Now, the parents do come out later after all this, and they do explain that the reason they did not intervene is because they were afraid of their son. They were afraid of Shinji. He had been extremely violent towards them on multiple occasions, and so they were scared of him. So they
I get that. But
don't get it.
You're still the fucking parent.
I don't get that. And here's why I don't get that. I have children, and my son is a gargantuan human.
Yeah, motherfucker's like 6'3".
He's literally,
shit,
he's 6'1", to be fair. He's 6'1", but he's a monster of a child. He's not a child. He's a man. He is 22 years old. And I will knock that motherfucker flat on his ass if I have to. And I'll do it full force, running as hard as I can to knock his ass down. Probably won't work because he was a lineman. He's a monster of a kid. But I won't bend down to my kids. You better kill me if you think you're going to make me ever afraid of you. Like, that's just not happening.
Well, do we need to tell them the story about when we were play fighting and I was like 12 years old and I launched your ass into the coffee table with my legs?
You were not 12. You were in high school, but
15. Whatever.
But
I was the same size.
Right. You were yeah, you were. But again, I didn't cry. I was, I actually laughed because I didn't expect it. But again, I would never have put myself in a position where I was afraid of my kids. I see that happen sometimes, and I can't quite comprehend the being scared of your kids thing.
Yeah.
Part of it also, though, maybe is because I tend to try wholeheartedly. I guess really where it comes down to is I'm not afraid to die.
Well, and
so I'm not afraid of most people.
I feel like you guys who were born in the 80s and grew up in the 90s are
we're a little
like
rough and tough.
Breed.
We are. To be fair, we are. We are a little bit more.
Some of you are not, but
we're a little.
Some of
we
you
were
are
raised by
breed.
Tupac and Biggie.
That's what I'm saying.
So it is
even
what it is.
in Japan. So
no, I agree. I actually agree. And so for me, I don't understand that, but I don't really fault the parents, to be honest with you, because at first I was like, the fuck? But when I read that, I was like, you know what? I've seen other scenarios where kids abuse their parents and their parents are afraid of them.
Well, and let's get real. If they are really tied to a mafia,
yeah, if they're really
that would be the scarier part.
That was my thought too, was if they're really have ties to the Yakuza,
right?
If you fuck with that kid, how do you know they're not coming after you?
Hundreds of other people.
Right. So I get it. I get it to an extent. So the boys, they end up holding Junko captive in that upstairs bedroom for over 40 days. On November 28th, 1988. So this is now 3 days after she was kicked off her bike. The group of 4 boys and 2 others proceed to gang rape Junko over and over again over the 40 days. They also tortured her. Now in early December, she tries to escape. Now as a punishment, she was repeatedly punched in the face by the boys. She was also burned on her ankles with a lighter. Prior to that, a lighter was taken to her genitalia. The boys also would force Junko to dance to music while naked and perform sexual acts. They also would force her to shove items into her body. They forced her to drink large amounts of alcohol. They also forced her to drink large amounts of milk and water. And I know that doesn't sound bad, but can you imagine you're being forced to drink a bunch of water or a bunch of alcohol or a bunch of milk in particular, and you get to a point where you're so full that you can't drink anymore, but they're still shoving it down your throat. You can drown yourself by drinking too much water, actually. That is torture in itself, because it's almost like waterboarding yourself, but you're being forced to have it shoved down your throat. They also forced her to smoke 2 cigarettes at once. And for those of you who are not smokers, 2 cigarettes at once would be fucking awful. Fucking just awful. They also forced her to inhale paint thinner fumes. There was one point where she is beaten by the boys, and Hiroshi at one point steps into a puddle of her urine. And so he decides that he's going to burn her thighs and her hands several times using lighter fluid and a lighter. Now, during this time, Junko would oftentimes tell her abductors to just kill her because she didn't want to live. She would actually beg them, like, please just kill me. Like, don't keep me alive. The torture continued throughout all of December. So by the end of December, she was severely malnourished. She was unable to walk due to her injuries. She was extremely weak, and she was disfigured because of the beatings. Then on January 4th, 1989, Hiroshi had been playing a game of mahjong with his friends, and he lost, and he got pissed. And he was very mad. So he goes upstairs to where Junko is, and he drips hot wax from a candle all over her face. He also puts 2 candles on her eyelids. My assumption is he put the hot wax on her eyelids and then shoved the candles on them. He forced her to drink her own urine. She was also kicked, and with this kick, she actually ends up falling into a radio that is in the room and starts going into convulsions. Then the group of boys comes upstairs. They cover their hands with plastic bags and beat her repeatedly with their fists because they didn't want her blood on them. They also took an iron exercise ball. They dropped it on her abdomen several times. So like the iron, like the
I know what they
kettlebell type things. Then Hiroshi pours lighter fluid all over her body and lights her on fire. They assaulted her in that time frame for over 2 hours. She dies at 10 a.m. the following morning. They don't know that she dies because they leave. Shinji's brother calls them to say that she dies. So the boys now go, well, fuck, what are we supposed to do? We can't just have a dead girl in our fucking house. Maybe you shouldn't have killed her. I don't know. So they go back to the house and they decide that they don't want to get caught for this crime of torture and murder and rape and abduction. So they wrap her body in a blanket. They put it in a travel bag. They put the bag into a metal drum and they fill the drum with concrete. Then on January 5th, they drive this metal drum to an empty lot that's near a construction site, and they leave the drum in the middle of this construction site. And that's it. Which is so strange to me because I'm like, yet none of the construction workers showed up and said, what the heck? Why is this metal drum sitting in the middle of our lot? Nobody says anything. Then in early 1989, so again, this happened January of 1989, so we're still in the early parts of 1989. Hiroshi and Joe are actually arrested for kidnapping and gang raping a 19-year-old woman. And this had actually happened in December of 1988. So they, even though they had already kidnapped and continued to gang rape and torture Junko, while they were doing that, they also were kidnapping and gang raping other women too. So they get caught for this one from December of 1988. And the police are questioning Hiroshi and Joe about this abduction and this rape. Now, Hiroshi thinks that Joe has told the police about Junko. And so he says, well, I know where the body is. Like, I can lead you to the body. Well, he was wrong. Joe said nothing. And as a matter of fact, the police were like, the body? The body of who? Like, we're literally investigating you for the rape of this woman who came to us and made a complaint. So whose body can you bring me to? And he's like, oh, oops. So this leads to basically all four of the boys getting caught. And they do all basically admit that they did this. There is no like, no, we didn't need, no, they fucking did it. So on March 29th, 1989, the drum is found. And Junko is identified by her fingerprints. I'm assuming it's because she was so disfigured they couldn't identify her face. Now, Hiroshi, Joe, Shinji, Yasushi, they were all arrested, along with Tetsuo Nakamura and Koichi Ihara. Now, Tetsuo and Koichi, they had actually raped Junko, but they were not a part of her murder. So they were arrested for raping her.
Did the parents get arrested?
No.
I understand they were scared of their son.
I think the parents
but I think they should have been arrested because they knew that she was there. And I'm telling you right now, there's no fucking way you didn't hear some of the shit that was going on.
I agree.
There's no fucking way.
I agree. Now, the identities of this group of boys were sealed by the courts because by law, they were not adults. Now, in Japan, at this time, an adult was 20 years old. So they were all under 20. So because of that, they were not their identities. As a matter of fact, pictures online, when you look at pictures online, pretty much there's only one that I've seen so far where you can actually see the face, and it's only of one of them. The rest of them, they have a black bar that goes through their eyes, so you can't see who they are. So their identity is protected because of their age. However, why are we able to know who they are if their identities were protected? Because a journalist uncovered their identities and published their names. And when the journalist was asked why, the journalist said, those boys, what they did, they do not deserve anonymity. They deserve to be known. They deserve for their names to be known, and they deserve for the world to know what kind of people they are. I'm not going to argue that. Now, in July of 1990, all of the boys are found guilty. They are found guilty of abduction for the purpose of sexual assault, confinement, rape, assault, murder, and abandonment of the corpse. So all four of them are found guilty. That's a lot of charges. Now, all four of the main perpetrators appealed. 3 of them were resentenced after their appeal. So Hiroshi Miyano, he originally receives 17 years in prison, but he is resentenced to 20 years. His parents also sold their home and paid restitution to Junko's family. Joe Agura, he is sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. Shinji Minato, he is originally sentenced to 5 to 6 years, and he is resentenced to 5 to 9. His brother and his parents were not charged, even though they knew what was going on. So there's that. Yasushi Watanabe, he was originally sentenced to 3 to 4 years in prison, and he was resentenced to 5 to 7. Now, Tetsuo Nakamura and Koichi Ihara, they did go to juvie, and they were not released until 2000 for the rape of Junko. Which is weird to me because this was 1990. So they served 20 years. No, sorry. They served 10 years. And some of the murderers didn't even serve that much time. So
how can you look at me and tell me that Japan to this day says that this is the worst juvenile crime that they have ever had, but those are the fucking sentences?
So
that to me makes no fucking sense.
So here's the thing. The community had actually threw a fit about this.
I have my suspicions that I won't say, but...
No. So the community threw a fit and they said they deserved death penalty.
Yeah.
They said these are the decisions they made, blah, blah, blah. And, in the United States, none of them would have... actually, in the United States...
They might have been tried as adults.
But they would have not... Only Hiroshi could have been getting the death penalty in the United States because he was the only one that was 18. Now, again, in Japan...
But doesn't it depend on what state you're in?
Nope. You cannot put a juvenile to death.
How old was Krista?
She was 18 when she murdered. And her boyfriend, if you remember, was 17. That's why he didn't get the death penalty. So you can't put anybody under 18 to death.
Okay, but still...
But you can give them life in prison or whatever, right? So that was the big push. Now, what was brought forth as to why they did not do that was because they said, one, their age, juveniles, and then people said, yeah, but we have other cases that people who are 17 and 18 years old, there was a case that they had referenced of a 17-year-old who had killed 2 people, and that person was sentenced to life in prison. And their response was, that person was given death penalty. And they said, well, how come that person was able to have the death penalty, but these people can't? And their response was, well, a couple of reasons. Number one, we rarely give the death penalty to anybody who's killed only one person. Okay, I guess. Number two, that other case, we were able to see and see that this was premeditated, calculated murder. We were not able to truly see that murder was their intent. So my question was, what do you think their intent was? They abducted her and then never let her go. Over 40 days. Do you think they were going to ever let her go? Do you think at any point in those
they fucking tortured her.
Right. Do you think at any point in those 40 days they were like, yeah, we'll just keep torturing and then one day we're just going to let her go? No, I'm pretty sure that when they decided to lock her into Shinji's home, they knew she'd die at some point in that house. They just didn't know when. And they were going to do everything they could during that time to torture her until she died. So I don't understand how it's not premeditated. But according to them, that's not premeditated. I guess their reasoning is the murder it's not after the fact, but the murder was a consequence of the actions of them torturing, but they didn't have the intent to kill. I beg to differ with that, but I don't live in Japan. So whatever. As for the current status of these people, Hiroshi was released from prison in 2009. He got out, he changed his last name, and pretty much lives under the radar. Now, in 2013, he was arrested on suspicion of bank fraud and phone scams, trying to scam elderly people out of money. However, he was actually never charged with that, and that's the last that anybody knows. Now, if you want to find out what his new last name is, go ahead and Google it yourself, because I was not going to put any of that information out here, because it's just not for me to say, okay? But I'm sure the information is out there. But he did change his last name. Now, Joe was released in 1999. Now, Joe changed his last name as well, went kind of off the radar, did meet a woman and married her and moved to China. Then they got divorced. Then he moved and lived with his mother after they got divorced. And in 2004, he was actually arrested for assault and he was sentenced to 4 years in prison. So that would be 2008, right? When he would get out, 2008, 2009. Now in 2009, after he's been released from prison, he decides he's going to live alone in an apartment. Part of it is because he felt like everybody who he was around judged him. He also lived off welfare because he couldn't hold a job because of the fact that his past was haunting him. Okay. And on July 16th, 2022, he dies in his apartment. He got his head stuck between the toilet bowl and the toilet tank, and he choked on his own vomit. He was 51. Now, I'm not saying this. I'm going to tell you what somebody had said, because I read a whole article that was the updates of them. And a lot of people, well, some people said, that's a horrific way to die. I agree with you. That's a fucking horrific way to die. And do you want to know the response to that by a lot of people? So was the way that he tortured Junko.
I'll say karma's a bitch.
And a lot of people said karma came and got him. Now, that's not my words. That's the words of people who live in Japan who feel very upset about the way this case went. Now, Shinji was released in 1998 and moved in with his mother. Then in 2018, he was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. Now, what's really interesting about this one, so he was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. Now, also, it is claimed that he, after moving in with his mother and kind of doing his thing for a while, he did fall back into the Yakuza. And he was very much involved, and I'm assuming still is today, with the Yakuza. And so which this would be par for the course. I actually believe that he probably really is involved with the Yakuza, because in 2018, when he's arrested on suspicion of attempted murder, it is because he got into an argument with somebody over a parking spot and basically beat the man with a metal rod type thing and almost killed him. And then he is actually sentenced in 2019 for this attempted murder. Before I go any further, why do you think they didn't get good sentences?
Well, the obvious, who their links are.
Me too. Because you know what he got for attempted murder of this man in 2018? 1 year and 6 months in prison with 3 years probation. So that's all I know about him. And then Yasushi Watanabe, he was released in 1996. He also went and lived with his mother in Tokyo. And in 2005, he was diagnosed with a neurodegenerative disease. He did not have enough money to pay for his medical expenses to help him with this neurodegenerative disease. And he died May 2021.
Karma's a bitch.
And he was 49. I would say that, but they got to live to be, the two men that died, they got to live to be 49 and 51. Junko got to live to be 17. She literally got to live to be 17. Karma would have been if they died in jail. You know what I'm saying? Like when you get to live when you get to live like most of your life, dying at 49 is young. Dying in your 50s is young, but you've lived over half your life, because most people aren't living to be 100.
Here's what I will say. Judge me for all you want. Shame on all those parents that let their fucking children come back and live with them. I'm going to tell you right now.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
You know what your children did.
Yep.
I agree with that. You gave them a roof over their head. I understand they are your children.
Yep.
But what they fucking did, they don't deserve.
And
they will never deserve that.
And I can say that as a mom. I'm a mother. And I can tell you right now that if either of my children did something as horrific as this, I would have cut ties with you the minute I found out you did it. And then when you get out of jail, you're on your own. I'm not there to help you.
I would have been on the other side saying give them a harsher sentence.
Yeah. I'm not for that. But also I do.
Because pretty much every single one of them, you said, went and lived with their mom.
Yep.
Went and lived with their mom. And I'm
but
like,
there's also,
why the fuck give them a roof over their head?
Because you have to remember there's also a culture difference. Right? There's just a culture difference between Americans and the Japanese.
There's also a basic right. Like,
you know what I mean? Of course. Now, the final piece of this is on April 2nd of 1989. That is when they actually were able to hold a funeral for Junko. Now, she was one of her very close friends, did a eulogy for her. The company that she was going to go work for after graduation presented her parents with what would have been her uniform. And they did put it in her casket with her, and she was buried with it. Oh, see, that shit just like, oh, sorry. Also, her parents were given all the awards and her diploma that she would have gotten when she graduated. They were presented to her parents as well. That's what happened to Junko. I'm going to be honest with you. I left out some of the stuff that I just couldn't bear. I just couldn't bear to say some of the things. So this is why I said it's hard, not because she's a 17-year-old girl. She's a person. She was somebody's sister. She was somebody's daughter. She was somebody's best friend. And every murder that we cover, every time we cover a murder, my heart is sad. This murder hit different because it wasn't just like a murder. It just hits a little differently because murder is one thing. People having mental health issues is one thing. But abduction, rape, and torture, that's evil. And to hear of somebody having to be tortured is awful, especially because she didn't do anything. She was just picked up off the street, and that's horrific. And I am sure there are people out there like, well, she didn't
not
have
even
to.
picked up off the street like a hooker. Like,
no, she
literally
was kicked off her bike.
Kicked off her bike, and then somebody
pretended to care to
right. And
gain her trust.
This is the thing that I will say. I'm not going to get into it greatly because I don't really fucking care that much. But this is my problem when guys sometimes will get frustrated of like, well, we're just trying to fucking help girls. And it's like, I'm not even saying girl versus guy. This is just people in general. You can't fucking trust anybody.
This is why.
Because look, he was being a super nice person.
You're not
and
wrong.
She was like, oh yeah, of course. And granted, that was the 80s versus 2026.
Okay, but this is
still.
why I will never pull over to help you. I'm sorry. If you're on the side of the road and you just got in a car accident,
I have to know you.
I will not be pulling over to help you. I will call 911 as I drive past you. I will not let you sit in my car. I will not pull over to offer you for help. I will drive by and be like, I'm calling 911 for you. I won't. That's why if you come to my house, knocking on the door like, hey, I need help, I'll be like, you can go sit on the side of my house with all my doors locked. I'll call 911 for you, but you're not coming in my house because
whenever people ask me, they're like, oh, do you need help? And I'm like, no, I got it. Especially if it's like carrying groceries to like my car.
Yeah, anytime somebody ever asks, hey, can I help you with that? I'm like, nope, I'm good. And it's not because I'm trying to be rude.
Even if I need the help.
It's not because I'm trying to be rude. It's because I've done too much true crime where women trust, or men for that matter, trust somebody. Fucking Ted Bundy. That is how Ted Bundy killed his girls, by asking them to help him because he pretended to have a broken leg or a broken arm. You know, so it's like he would trustworthy, right? I don't trust none of you motherfuckers out there. None of you. I'll never be helping you. Never, ever, 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 ever. My kids won't help you because I've taught them not to help strangers.
Sierra doesn't always listen to that. Sometimes I help people.
Oh my God. I'm like a very terrible person.
It's not that. What it is at the end of the day, and this is, I guess, it's hard to take away things from the podcast that we do because they're so horrific sometimes.
Yeah.
But in a case like this, I guess the only thing that I can chalk it up to is, unfortunately, stranger danger, right? Like just, and I'm not, again, it's not just girls, guys too, children, women, men, just please fucking be careful.
But here's the thing. They were her age too. That's the other thing.
I know.
Is like you tend to trust
even
people,
more trustworthy.
Right. You tend to trust people that are similar to your age because you're like, oh, like
just
they feel me, they understand.
Be careful and don't.
Yeah,
I'm not
even
saying everybody's like that. That's not what I'm
no,
saying. So don't
no,
get that shit twisted.
No,
it's
but
just,
no.
It's hard.
The thing is, I don't even I can't even understand because I feel like our world. We keep seeing this happening. Hello, we just saw that with the FedEx murder. Like the fact that guy, he would be a trusted individual for somebody, right? He's somebody in a uniform. He has a job. People would trust him. And it's like, who the fuck can you trust? You can't even trust the police. Let's not lie. You can't even trust the police at this point. You definitely can't trust the government, any government official that shows up to my house with their fucking shield and shit. Like, I'm not going to trust what you're telling me because we've all been lied to in so many different aspects. And fuck teachers. You can't even trust teachers. Think about our area. How many sex offender
Dude, I was gonna say,
teachers
how
have been?
many teachers? I swear to God,
Exactly.
every day on Facebook, it's
There
a new
right.
person
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is
that
it's
did
like,
something.
who are we supposed to trust? And so for me, it's like the only thing I can pass along to my kids is it used to be vigilant, know your surroundings, yada, yada, yada. Now it's like yes, Sierra's 25 and my son is 22. That motherfucker is, like I said, he is a big ass man. He is a big ass man. And I told him, you're not going anywhere by yourself. And I told him, I said, if you go somewhere, use the buddy system. If you're like out at the bowling alley and it's midnight when you're going to your car, you go out with the car with your friends. You don't go by yourself.
I feel like we should ask them to promote us, but this is why we use Life 360.
100%. Life 360. Okay, actually, we'll talk about it for a second, then we'll let you. I'll let you go. True story. Life 360 is an app that you can get on your phone that literally tracks your phone.
You can use it for free, or you can pay
we
premium.
use the free version because I don't need any more than that. But I swear by Life 360 because at any given time, I can log on and find out where my kids are. Yes, they're adults. Yes, they're adults. But you know what? I have a daughter who's, well, not anymore because she has a boyfriend, but she was dating. And
even then, my boyfriend lives an hour north.
Every time that she would go on dates, I would follow what she was doing and make sure that she was in places I could see. And then now she has a boyfriend, but he lives an hour away. So what I love about it is if something happens to her driving to or from, and we don't hear from her and we know that she's supposed to be back, we can just open up Life 360. And if her car is stopped, it'll tell us.
Well, and I think if you pay for the premium too, it can like detect crashes
Yeah,
and shit like that too.
Yes,
so like
there's
things
all-
like you
there's-
can do that
there's
stuff,
so
but you
many
have
things.
a circle.
Correct.
And you can also, I think with the free one, I think it's 3 locations and
Yeah.
premium gives you more, but you can pin. So like for instance, my brother, he's not going to physically going to this college anymore, but it was about like 20, 25 minutes away, probably 30 minutes somewhere
like
in there.
30 minutes. And it was night. He was
and
always,
it was nighttime.
Well, he would go there at like 6:00 at night, but he didn't get out of class until like 10.
And in Washington,
and-
it would get really dark. Well, anywhere. But,
Not only that, but nobody was really on campus.
right.
And that was one of those times that
And
I
it wasn't
looked.
the greatest area.
No, it's not the greatest area. And I had told him when he first started going there, I said, listen to me, when it's time for you to leave, walk out with your classmates. Even if you don't know them, walk out when a big group walks out, because it's like, and he even told me after the first day, he was like, it is so kind of eerie. There's only like 7 cars in the parking lot.
But
I'm
the
thinking,
plus side-
and if there's somebody that's wanting to hurt you. So I told him, I said, you get in your car, unlock it, get in and lock your car door again, and then turn your car on and get ready to go.
And the plus side to that is you can zoom in on like the school or the workplace, because like we would do it for my dad too, and it would send you, if you put that one as a notification, and like I said, you can limit the radius, like you could pinpoint it down to the building itself. Most people do like to the parking lots, but you can pin them to where it'll send you text messages that says, oh, so and so, Trisha left home. And then like she goes and runs her errands, and then it would notify me and says Trisha arrived at home at this time. And then even if your battery is in low power mode, it still will show it. It'll just be a little bit more delayed. So that's like if your phone's dying, it might not show exact. It might be like, oh, it was there 5 minutes ago, and then it'll reload. If your phone is dead, obviously that sucks. It'll just show the last location. But
even that is helpful because you know where the last place was.
Off.
Now, I will also say one other thing.
This is not a promotion. Life 360 didn't call us.
If you have children that, don't have cell phones, I know that if I had little kids in today's day, I will tell you right now what I would have done with my kids. And y'all do what you want with this information. Okay? Sierra doesn't even know what I'm going to say right now. I would, Sierra. I would put an AirTag in my child's backpack.
I thought about putting one on Olive's collar.
Okay. But I would also
in the shoe,
cut the sole of their shoe.
Mm-hmm.
And put an Apple AirTag in their shoe. And the reason I say that is because a backpack you can ditch. Normally, if your child is getting taken, they're not going to think to take their shoes off. So you can track your child for a hot minute before they maybe try to take their shoes off. But I would literally put an Apple AirTag or some sort of tracking device in my child's shoes when they are going to school or whatever, so that I could find them before anything horrific happens, or if something horrific happens, I could find them
especially if
fast.
your kid is the kind of kid that due to, whatever lifestyle you guys have, has to walk to and from.
Oh, 100%.
Or ride bikes. Or,
100%.
Like basically
just
not be
if you
in
have
a vehicle.
if you have a kid that wants to be free, that's the freedom you can give them now, is you can have a way to kind of track what they're doing, right? So
also, if any of you kids are listening, your parents aren't being assholes, I promise.
No,
they love you.
We love our kids.
Trust me, I was a kid once too. I mean,
I was too.
I didn't do bad things, but my point is like, I'd be annoyed when my mom constantly went, fuck, when I was on a date in South Dakota, it was ruining the date because they were calling me 20, like fucking, it felt like 24/7.
Because we thought she was fucking dead.
And again, at the time I was like, geez, fucking, I can't, like, this is rude. I can't even get through a date. But in hindsight, like now being 25, it's like, no, if I had a daughter.
And to be fair, it was because we knew she went on a date. And then it had been like 5 hours.
That's because we were having a good time,
right?
But still.
Which was great, and we had,
that happened,
and all we did was texted her like, "Hey, is everything good?" And she didn't respond. So then we start calling, and she's putting her phone straight to voicemail. And then eventually,
they called my roommates, and my roommates were like, "She's not back."
We called her roommates, and they're like, "No, she's still gone." And so now we're freaking out because she also was in South Dakota, which is miles. I mean, thousands of miles from where we lived. And I looked at my husband, and I was like, Do we buy a plane ticket? Do we start driving? Like, what do we do? So he ends up continuing to call. She eventually texts us and said, I am on my date. That is so rude. And I fucking was so pissed that I lit her up. And I said, I don't give a fuck. We thought you were goddamn dead.
He could hear.
I was so pissed.
Funny enough, he ended up being not my current boyfriend now, but at the time
and he was a great guy.
Yeah.
But it was like, I wanted to know she was safe because our world sucks. So anyways, that is why I think this one hits so much deeper, because Junko could have been Sierra. She could have been. Sierra was 17 once. Sierra was out doing things. She was at 17. Sierra was traveling with her softball team to tournaments that I couldn't be at.
Shit, at one point we went to fucking New York and New Jersey.
Yep. And at 17, Sierra was in college. We brought her to college when she was 17 years old. So I left her at 17 years old in college.
Same time frame too. Actually,
like these and colleges, when your kids don't live at home, like you don't hear from them as much sometimes.
College can be scary.
So it's like I think this one hit hard because it was like, this is a 17-year-old innocent girl who had a whole entire life ahead of her, and 4 young boys took her life from her, but didn't just take her life, they tortured her life from her. And that's crazy to me. Do I feel justice was served?
Fuck no.
No, I don't. But at the same time,
even those 2 guys dying, still, it'll never fucking be served.
Her family does not feel that it's been served. The community does not feel like it's been served.
Everybody but themselves.
I don't actually know. I do actually think that some of the boys struggled. I mean, seriously, when I was reading about them, like I said, they became isolated and they didn't want to be in the public. And there's a reason for that. That's not giving them kudos or anything. I'm not. But some of them I do think felt like, holy fuck. I mean, you got to remember, one of them was 16 years old. Okay. So again, a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old, 2 of the 4 were much less involved than the other 2. And the 2 of the 4 that were much less involved, they are the ones who almost seemed like they were ashamed and didn't want to be out in public after they got out of prison.
Which would make more sense.
Correct. So it is, and actually those 2 are the ones that died. So the 2 that were mostly involved, they still are alive. And like I said, both of them supposedly have a connection with the Yakuza. And that would make sense to me, especially with the torture thing. I could see it. So this was the horrific episode. And I'm very sorry. Like I said, I'm sorry. It's not a fun episode. None of them are ever fun episodes. Let's not lie. But I couldn't not do it because I had researched it. And I was like, well, shit, I just took 2 days to research this shit. And now I got to tell it. And it makes my stomach hurt. It makes me tear up. I get a lump in my throat because it's awful. Thanks for listening, I guess. Thanks for listening.
Hopefully we'll have some demons next week.
I don't know what we're going to do next week. I don't know if I could trust Sierra to send me anymore because all of hers are fucking
Dude, I literally just see a crime and just send it. I don't even fucking read it.
Yeah, clearly, because my God.
And yes, don't forget, we are still keeping up with the FedEx guy.
We are. We're just waiting.
That is done, which I think it's actually going to be done in the next couple.
Yeah, they just said they're on
like
the
a week
sentencing phase.
Okay, so it'll be here shortly.
Yep. And other than
you'll probably be a good podcast because everything's coming out.
It will be, but I got to take a hot minute to do that one. That one breaks my heart really bad. I've seen just little snippets of it. I I gotta wait to do that one because I'm not gonna listen to other recording and stuff. I just can't. But I know that I've seen some quotes and stuff from the recording and it tears my fucking heart out. And I have to wait a little while to do that one.
What's crazy is I was at the store and it has to deal with her, but I was at the store the other day and I was looking at scrubs, you know, because I wear those more than I wear fucking normal clothes. And I looked and I saw that they had pink scrubs. And I'm not going to lie, she was the first thing that came to my mind. I fucking bought those scrubs. Yeah. I was like, damn. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been keeping up with the case more than any other case I've ever kept up with. But I was like, holy shit. It gave me chills. I was like, oof.
Yeah, no, it's I'll be doing it, but I need to find a little bit lighter. So yeah, next week.
It's a great thing to talk about after coming back from Disneyland.
Next week we might do something spooky, even though normally I like to give you like a couple of true crimes and then do spooky. And I know we just did spooky last week, but this was pretty heavy, and I got to be able to do lighter in between those heavy ones. So look forward to
maybe
something
do like a petty theft from the 50s or
I
some
know.
shit like.
Oh, maybe that. You know what? You're not wrong. Maybe I just need to bring out my Alcatraz books because all them Alcatraz people, they didn't do too much shit. Maybe I'll do like Al Capone or some shit like some shit
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do something more lighthearted. No true crime is really lighthearted, but lighthearted did compared. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to the shitty ass story that we just told you. And we do appreciate with all of the support. I did break the news to your dad that we have more downloads, and he said, y'all need to shut it down. That's what he said.
Nope.
So he's going to work harder, I think, at trying to get our downloads up. But regardless, so thank you so much. They continue to go up. I genuinely appreciate it. I know Sierra appreciates it. It gives me something to do with my weird obsession of true crime, and I will always be thankful for that. So other than that, I want to thank you one more time for listening to us tell you this story of the murder of Junko Furuta, the 17-year-old who lost her life way too soon. Until next week, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.